podcast, streaming on CBS News.
She's the most successful alpine skier, male or female, ever, and a worldwide inspiration.
We need a lot of women doing sports really, really well.
The story of Michaela Schifrin's game-changing reign at the top of the slopes when we go person to person.
Tonight, Senator Joe Manchin is leaving the Senate, so what's his next move?
Will you run for president?
Nora O'Donnell's exclusive interview. Then, how are students learning about the Israel-Hamas war inside the classroom on the CBS Evening News?
By passing this bill, we will avoid a government shutdown, fully pay our troops, and protect Americans' hard-earned taxpayer dollars.
Kevin McCarthy walked by and he elbowed me in the kidneys as he walked by.
You're quite confident this was deliberate?
Oh, come on. I'll take a polygraph test.
Right now, we live in the time of the greatest amount of distrust in government in modern American history. In my state of New Jersey, 84% of New Jerseyans believe that their politicians are corrupt.
Hello, I'm Ed O'Keefe, CBS News in Washington. Welcome to America Decides. They say the U.S. Senate is the greatest deliberative body in the world, and they refer to the House of Representatives as the People's House. But after today, we might just need to start calling Capitol Hill Fight Club. While we the people face a government shutdown in less than 3 days amid public concerns about inflation, amid two global crises that require U.S. engagement, and amid polling that continues to show this country more sharply divided than ever before, elected representatives today literally jabbed each other and picked fights. It began in the House, where during an interview with a radio reporter, Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett says he was elbowed from behind in the kidneys by none other than the former leader of his conference, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Here's what he told our Scott McFarlane about the incident.
Kevin McCarthy walked by and he elbowed me in the kidneys as he walked by.
You're quite confident this was deliberate?
Oh, come on. I'll take a polygraph test and have Kevin take a polygraph test.
McCarthy denies this happened.
When I was walking back further, honestly, somebody was interviewing me or talking to me, and he comes running up like, why did you hit me or something like that? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even know something transpired.
Short time later, over on the Senate side of the Capitol, Oklahoma Republican Markwayne Mullin and Sean O'Brien, president of the Teamsters Union, nearly came to blows.
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every problem?
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay. Sit down, please.
All right. Can I respond, Mr.
Hold it.
There was also an incident in a hearing of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee where the Republican chairman, James Comer of Kentucky, called Florida Democrat Jared Moskowitz, quote, a smurf. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarlane joins us now. Scott, walk us through these incidents and what more we should know about what only can be described as a pretty ugly day there at the Capitol.
This is like too long a car ride to too far away a destination. The House has been in session 10 consecutive weeks, and the Senate's been in session quite a number of those weeks as well. And the fatigue that has been setting in after all these standoffs and all the acrimony has actually been leveraged by House leaders. That may be one reason why there is a Speaker Mike Johnson. The fatigue of the Speaker race culminated with the election of Mike Johnson. There's going to be a continuing resolution passed tonight to keep the government open till early 2024. The fatigue is set in. People are becoming more agreeable on things they don't love. But that fatigue also manifests itself in other ways, where you have this acrimony become palpable, where it's not just frustration, but it's anger. It's not just anger, then it becomes physical anger or the threat of physical anger in some cases. We spoke with Congressman Burchett and we spoke with Congressman McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy says it was not a punch, it was not an elbow. If he did bump into Mr. Burchett, it's because the hallway is too narrow. Congressman Burchett, who was one of 8 Republicans to vote to oust Kevin McCarthy this Congress, says it was a deliberate strike. Then there's that matter of Senator Mullin. At a Health, Education, and Labor Committee hearing on labor, facing off with a union leader who'd been blasting him on social media. I asked Senator Mullen if it was so necessary to go so far. Take a listen.
But was it necessary to do something so provocative at that hearing?
I don't know what provocative is. I mean, he's the one that said stand up. I just simply read his tweet.
Ed, here's the upside. The long car ride is ending soon. Everybody's going home for the holidays. They get a reset come December.
So this is what happens essentially when Congress doesn't take a recess, right? This is what the public has clamored for. And in essence, they need to take a break because it can get a little violent up there potentially.
Let's look at the baselines and fundamentals of the legislative branch. There's supposed to be a back and forth. There's supposed to be arguments and competing interests, competing personalities representing different parts of America. But when you keep competing interests and competing personalities together too long, it can bottle up. It can bubble up. And that's what happened today. So you're going to have an ethics committee review from Congressman Gates, another of Congressman McCarthy's detractors, against the former speaker for this push and shove that's been alleged today, but I don't think that's going very far.
So quickly now, it looks like the House is set to approve this two-tiered shutdown plan. Democrats signaling a little while ago they're okay with it. Remind us how it would work and why there are a handful of Republicans opposed to it.
This is a clean resolution, they call it. No spending cuts, no controversial policies added, but it goes into two different parts. It funds 1/3 of the government through January. It funds the other 2/3 of the government through February. Some Republicans say they don't like it because it does not cut funding, but there's no way to get it past the finish line before the Friday deadline. With Democratic support in the Senate, Democratic votes in the House, that they were going to make some controversial cuts. So I think Republicans have been saying pretty consistently to me today, Ed, we live to fight another day. That day comes in January, and the prospect of a protracted government shutdown is real, and it is growing.
Scott McFarland covers Congress for us, and today he was covering boxing. We thank you for doing so.
Thank you.
Now, President Biden is in California, preparing to sit down Wednesday with Chinese President Xi Jinping. It's a high-stakes meeting that the entire world will be watching closely, given the political, economic, and military consequences. Before leaving Washington today, the president was asked how he would define success for the meeting.
To get back on a normal course of corresponding, being able to pick up the phone and talk to one another if there's a crisis, being able to make sure our military still have contact with one another. We can't take, as I told you, we're not trying to decouple from China. But what we're trying to do is change the relationship for the better.
CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now from the roof of CBS News San Francisco there in the Bay Area. Weijia, give us a preview of what we are expecting will transpire in this meeting tomorrow between the two leaders.
Well, Ed, in many ways, the fact that they are meeting face-to-face is a success on its own for the administration, because for several months now, the relationship has been quite rocky. In fact, the president was talking about reestablishing communications. Why is that? Because in February, China went dark after the U.S. shot down a spy balloon off the coast of South Carolina, and the defense secretary picked up the phone. It was a special line used with China for times of crisis, and couldn't get anyone on the line. That's exactly why the president said we have to get back to a place where we can talk on the phone, where, we can normalize relations. And so, I'm not expecting a ton of huge actions that the president will announce, but Ed, this is a very critical face-to-face meeting and try to get things back on track, because this relationship has grown so tense.
And it's happening on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Conference, which invites in dozens of countries that either sit along the Pacific Rim or in Asia. Big economic conference. But in the midst of all that, the president is still monitoring the fate of those roughly 240 hostages being held by Hamas, and there are U.S. officials deeply engaged in the negotiations. What is the status of those talks?
Well, right before leaving for San Francisco, the president talked about this, and he said even though he can't get into details about what's happening behind the scenes, he talks to people every single day about the plan to get those hostages home. And his message to them was hang in there. because we are coming. We also know that the administration's top advisor on the Middle East with the National Security Council is in the region. He is going to be meeting with Israeli officials as well as those in Qatar to try to hammer out a final deal to get some of those hostages home, Ed. But you're right, not only is that the backdrop, but so is the conflict in Ukraine. And so this is a very high-stakes meeting for the president, especially as he gets mounting pressure from the international community to do more to support a ceasefire in Israel, which, of course, he has said he will not do right now. Ed.
Senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang monitoring it all from San Francisco as the president spends a few days out there. Thank you so much. We've got a busy Wednesday ahead of you. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who made headlines last week after announcing he won't seek re-election, is now weighing in on the 2024 presidential election. Here's some of his exchange earlier today with CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell.
If it comes down to it, will you vote for Trump or Biden?
I think that's it's a hypothetical question, thinking not knowing what we're going to have and who we're going to have. To make a choice right now, okay, let me just say I could not vote for Donald Trump.
But you're not convinced you could vote for Joe Biden?
Well, I want President Biden. I would hope the changes would come. I would hope for that.
Are you considering leaving the Democratic Party?
I'm not sure if the Democratic Party thinks I'm part of them anyway.
You can watch more of Norah's interview with Senator Manchin tonight on the CBS Evening News. Check your local CBS listings. The Supreme Court has issued a decision nobody was expecting. We'll discuss what it means for the 9 justices and the future of the High Court. Stay with us. You're streaming America Decides.
Well, let me start with this.
This really
Have you told the government?
Did any of that make sense?
What's your response? You want me to just
What's wrong with that argument?
What have you learned?
Do you know why?
Why?
Why? It's time for 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS. An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Since you started La Soup in 2014, do you have any sense as to how much food you've rescued from the landfill?
We've rescued 4.5 million pounds.
I can't even fathom how much food that is.
And that's one little person in one little city in America. We're going to call this chicken piccata. We did 450 of these meals today.
This is the exact dish that you and I are going to have.
Yep.
Oh, really good.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Having a plan of how to keep people fed should be in every single city.
If we eliminated food waste, could we eliminate
hunger? Yes.
Eating Trash, now streaming on the free CBS News app. An original documentary from CBS Reports.
You had a substitute teacher that was pretty popular. What was his reputation?
Everyone loved him.
You had to miss a test. What did he offer to have you make up the test?
He said that I can come by after school was all over and just take the exam. The blinds were down. He closed the door. The next thing I knew, he was right next to me. That's when I realized what was going to happen. Even if I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, no one would hear me because no one was there. He told me that if I ever said anything to anyone, he would kill me and he would kill my family. So I did it.
Pledge of Silence, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
He was there when the war in Ukraine started.
Extreme history. It's a big moment.
The extraordinary story behind Sean Penn's new Paramount Plus documentary, Superpower, when we go person to person.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
AI is among the most world-changing technologies ever.
Curing diseases, scientific breakthroughs, making lives better.
They can help us with medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, doing better agriculture, having cures for things like Alzheimer's.
It's also going to really transform the way we work.
The uplifting potential of artificial intelligence is limitless.
It gives you a friend, somebody to chat with 24/7 that is non-judgmental. He makes me feel loved and desired.
And so are its downfalls.
The problem with all this AI is that it's unpredictable and uncontrollable. The choices we make now will have lasting effects for decades, maybe even centuries.
The ChatGPT revolution, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Why did you miss the moment?
I'm not sure why they missed the moment.
It doesn't look like Congress is doing anything. That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. That means a civil conversation with perspective.
Welcome back to America Decides. On Monday, the Supreme Court stunned Washington by announcing it's adopting a new code of conduct. The move comes amid growing criticism following several press reports that some justices were accepting gifts and luxury trips from wealthy, politically aligned individuals. That led critics to allege at least some of the justices could be bought off for favorable decisions. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford joins us now, someone who tracks the High Court quite closely. This did surprise Washington a bit, but we knew it had been in the works to some extent. What is in this? What isn't in this?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of these things where it was surprising that it came out on Monday. Yeah, you know, but it's been in the works for years and years. I mean, the justices have taught for years, long before any of these media reports, recent media reports, particularly about Justice Thomas, you know, were ever in the works. But it took some time to kind of come together on what the court was going to do. You've got to get buy-in from all 9 justices. Some of them have different views on things. But this is what they came up with. And I think what's really most notable about it is that it very closely tracks what they followed as federal appeals court judges. It's almost verbatim in parts to what all lower federal court judges, the code of conduct and ethical guidelines and rules that they have to follow. The court said in a statement, again signed onto by all 9 justices, that they've kind of always followed that informal code and kind of tracked that they do. But this was just making it official because they thought that was important because there had been a misunderstanding, as they put it, that the justices weren't bound by any ethical rules. And they say, but of course they always were. So here you go. You wanted a code of conduct, official one from the Supreme Court. And that's what they've delivered. And
it essentially lays out when you can recuse yourself from a case, although it urges you not to do that, right?
Right, and that's a little, there's some differences to what the lower court judges have to follow. There are more specific guidelines, as you point out, on recusal. There's some distinctions there because that goes to the unique nature of the Supreme Court. If one justice has to recuse from a case, that leaves 8. And what's the problem there, right? You can get a 4-4 tie. Right. So there's, you know, maybe more incentive for Supreme Court justices not to recuse in cases unless it's a clear and obvious conflict. There's other specific guidelines, for example, about outside speaking engagements. Again, pointing out the unique nature of a Supreme Court justice. We want them to go out and talk about the rule of law and have civic engagement, like, for example, Justice Breyer did so well before he retired. So, yes, I mean, you see some distinctions, but again, that's all because of the unique nature of the court. That's also one of the big differences in enforcement. And that's where the sticking point is on this code of conduct.
Speaking of which, there are congressional Democrats who have been pushing this issue who say it doesn't go far enough. For example, here's Dick Durbin of Illinois shortly after the code was announced.
The court's code of conduct sets forth several important canons of conduct, including canons on upholding the integrity and independence of the judiciary and avoiding impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. All of these are important steps, but they fall short of what we could and should expect when a Supreme Court issues a code of conduct.
The buzzwords have been there's no enforcement mechanism, no one to police the 9. Do they have a point, or is it such that you're so supreme as the Supreme Court that you have the right to police yourselves?
Well, that's what the Supreme Court has long argued. And obviously, this has become quite a political issue. You know, there are a lot of Democrats who don't really like the direction of the Supreme Court. And so some of this is attacking the court's legitimacy, undermining some of the decisions that they've handed down. They just don't like them. That's what, you know, conservatives would say. As far as the enforcement goes, though, again, we were talking earlier about the unique nature of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the only court that is created by the Constitution. Right? I mean, it's in the Constitution. The other federal courts, of course, created separately. But the federal court, the Supreme Court is created by the Constitution, and the Constitution provides a specific enforcement mechanism when justices have misconduct, and that is impeachment. So the argument would be that that's the enforcement mechanism. It's impeachment. Yeah. And Congress has no role in adopting a code of conduct, trying to hold the justices accountable, outside committees. because you have significant separation of powers concerns. Congress doesn't have any jurisdiction over the Supreme Court.
We know that Chief Justice John Roberts, throughout his tenure, has been concerned about public perceptions of the court and making sure the American public generally understand what it is they try to do. Do we have any sense now that he might try go shopping this around and explaining it to people, or does he hope that Congress and the public just sort of see it and say, that's how it's going to be?
The Chief Justice is someone who is very strategic, and when he makes statements, he does it at judicial conferences or at universities, at law schools. You know, and he may make a comment on he's very satisfied with this. I could see him doing that. But, you know, I could see him letting this speak for itself as well. And I think that they feel very strongly about our point we're talking about with the enforcement mechanism. The chief has suggested that and hinted that. And, you know, the other justices have wanted this. I mean, we saw all summer, I was at a judicial conference in Cleveland, which, by the way, is a fabulous city, where we saw the justice talking about, you know, they thought this was going to be happening soon. Other justices speaking at conferences and law schools saying there was a need for this. So this is something that they all thought was important, and, you know, they're proud of it. I mean, they think this is a good effort, a sincere effort to do something that they believe was important to kind of further that public confidence in the courts and in the Supreme Court specifically.
And real quick, is there a case coming on the docket that would serve as a test of this code of conduct? Because there may be something before one of the 9 justices. Okay.
I mean, you can argue no. I mean, this tracks what they've been doing. There's nothing in this that is going to get them in trouble for some of the other allegations about Justice Thomas or Justice Sotomayor or Justice Alito. I think this is very forward-looking. And that's been a problem, I think, when you talk about some of the, quote, alleged misconduct by some of the justices. That was a long time ago. The rules have changed in the wake of some of that. And so those rules don't apply to behavior retroactively.
All right. CBS News chief legal correspondent and fan of Cleveland, Jan Crawford, thank you for stopping by. Coming up, we speak with one of the Democrats trying to unseat indicted New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. You're streaming America Decides.
Our story's just begun. Why did you want to share your story? Water up this high? Where are these coming from?
That's the million-dollar question.
I'm a very curious person. I wake up every morning asking, what's happening in the world? Why is this happening? And how do we answer that question on the CBS Evening News?
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Haitians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
We aim every night to be factual and fair. That's our goal.
An original documentary from CBS Reports. Controversial Congressman George Santos.
Why won't you answer our questions?
How did he manage to get elected?
Thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless the USA.
George Santos' campaign was a campaign of deceit, lies, fabrication.
And who is he, really?
I knew him as Anthony DeVolder from Queens.
Really, who he is, he's a fraud.
I compare him to the Tinder swindler.
From people who know him, the truth, the facts, the lies.
He would say that he was worth $100 million.
It's an incredibly cynical episode in American politics, beyond satire.
Had you ever seen anything like this?
No, and I hope I never see it again.
Campaign of Deceit, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Since childhood, she never stopped reaching for the skies. Now she's spent more time in space than any other American.
I like being a part of something bigger than me.
Peggy Whitson's extraordinary career as a history-making astronaut when we go person to person.
Feel the forecast on the CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se. Why aren't you holding yourself to that standard? It doesn't look like Congress is doing anything. What has to happen? That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. And that means a civil conversation with perspective.
about to see American weapons in the hands of Mexican cartels.
A gun pipeline to Mexico.
We are arming the cartels.
100%, no doubt about it.
Happening right under our noses.
Who's doing something about this? Nobody.
A CBS Reports exclusive.
Most Americans have no idea that we are effectively arming the enemy next door.
This is the story the American people need to know.
Arming cartels. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
What went through your mind when you heard about sort of the most recent indictment upon Senator Menendez?
Well, not just Menendez. How many people from New Jersey get in trouble? We're known for...
Right.
But I wasn't like surprised by it at all because I feel like there's a lot of corruption in
New Jersey
in politics.
Welcome back to America Decides. That was some of New Jersey Democratic Congressman Andy Kim's first Senate campaign ad, one of the most creative launch videos we've seen. It comes as Senator Bob Menendez has remained defiant since being indicted on allegations of conspiring to act as an unregistered foreign agent. Congressman Kim sat down with CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian earlier today.
Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. You know, I know when you launched your campaign, you talked a lot about broken politics. What is broken politics to you, and how do you think you can fix it if you're elected as New Jersey's next senator?
Yeah, I mean, broken politics is what a lot of people feel right now when they look at what's happening. Right now, we live in the time of the greatest amount of distrust in government in modern American history. In my state of New Jersey, 84% of New Jerseyans believe that their politicians are corrupt. And I just think that that's indicative of just, you know, people don't think that government and politicians are focused on the issues that they care about. They think that people are just in it for their own personal ambitions. So what I'm trying to do is try to restore that trust, and by doing so, trying to restore a sense of integrity in our politics. I'm somebody who's been a public servant my whole career. I'm somebody that's fighting against the corruption here in Congress, pushing forward legislation to be able to do so. And I hope people see in me someone who is trying to be for the people.
I know you just launched your Senate campaign last week, but you technically announced a couple of weeks ago, not long after Senator Bob Menendez was charged. Did you jump the gun there? I mean, he has said that he's innocent.
No, look, I think what's important right now is that the people of New Jersey have a choice. And they're going to have a choice next June in the primary and the choice next November in the general election. And that's what I wanted to provide. You know, I think that it's really important that people feel that they are the ones that are in the driver's seat of their democracy. And again, I think that that's something that they get worried about. You know, there's just so many concerns that just politics is so out of touch, that decisions are made in backroom deals and things like that. That's what people are tired of. And I've heard it as I've gone all across the state. People were excited that I took a strong and bold decision to jump in and be able to make sure that people have the kind of choice and democracy that they so badly deserve.
I mean, prior to his legal troubles and you announcing, how would you characterize your relationship with the senator?
Well, look, I work with the New Jersey delegation in both chambers, and we've worked on legislation. I don't particularly know the senator very well, but we've had opportunities to be able to work on different issues together. And look, I'm somebody that'll work with anybody in Congress if we're able to get things done, be able to serve the people. But what we need to make sure is that, again, that the people that are coming to government, coming into politics, are there for the right reasons. What I'll just say is I had a boss that once told me when I worked at the State Department in national security, he said, you don't have good government unless you have good people working in government. And I truly believe that. We just need to make sure that we have people that are here for the right reasons, people of integrity.
Did you ever reach out and give him a heads up?
No, I did not. I think the moment was when I called for him to step down, he released an immediate response saying that he's not going anywhere. He said, I am not going anywhere. So I just felt like, you know, I needed to have a strong and immediate response back saying, well, then we give the people of New Jersey a choice.
As you mentioned, you have called on the senator to step down. You've called for him to be expelled from the Senate. You are someone who has worked in the national security space. So when you go through that superseding indictment, particularly this latest charge that alleges the senator acted as a foreign agent, what troubles you most?
Well, what troubles me most is this question. I mean, with national security, it's the last place that partisan politics belongs. It's a place where we have to have the utmost care. And as someone who worked in national security before, worked in embassies abroad, the hope is that our leaders back in Washington will have our backs. And so when there are allegations that the senator may have provided personal information about different U.S. government employees at the embassy or potentially other types of dealings, that is of the highest of concern to me. And that's something that I think merits, the strongest kind of response because of just the breach of confidence there. We work jobs whose job descriptions are in the Constitution of the United States. It demands the highest of standards, the highest possible standards.
In terms of your candidacy, you're not the only person interested in this seat, as I'm sure you well know. There is talk that Governor Phil Murphy's wife, Tammy, may get in. Do you see her as a competitive challenger?
Well, I think anyone is allowed to participate in our democracy. That is the rights afforded to us. And I think, again, my main issue, as someone who's been battle tested, I've won 3 of the toughest races in recent New Jersey history, including as a Democrat winning a district that Trump won twice. So I know how to win. And how I win is by getting my message out there. And so I don't know how she or others are going to do. She's never run for office before, so we'll have to see how the voters respond.
All right, Congressman Andy Kim, Senate candidate for the state of New Jersey, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Good conversation. That does it for today. Thank you for watching. You're streaming CBS News.
On Face the Nation, the way to learn is to listen.
We may have a recession.
Listening to how someone explains themselves is so key to understanding their perspective.